Okay, I saw some discourse, I think on Twitter. I think Brett Coleman tweeted out something about a prospect of like if he's a good pass rusher, why doesn't he pass rush good? The famous Moneyball line, which I don't remember if it was in the I believe it was in the book. It certainly was in the movie of if he's a good hitter, why doesn't he hit good? Why isn't he, playing well if he's supposed to be this good hitter? And it's a fair point to bring up. But ultimately, looking at if a player is good or bad in college isn't always the best way to tell if they're going to be good or bad at the NFL level. Of course, there are exceptions to every rule, but also there's just some positions that like seemingly being good in college isn't a great indication of if you'll be good at the NFL level. Wide receiver is one of those positions where a lot of players who might set the world on fire in college at the wide receiver position go to the NFL and don't fully work out. And sometimes guys who are only like pretty good in college end up being awesome because football, unlike baseball, which I brought up earlier, is such a team-dependent sport. So, for edge rushers, let's bring it back here. Does being good in college at the edge rush position result in you being good in the NFL? It's interesting, so I wanted to get into it. So I looked up two numbers. One was one I had actually made from a video prior. The other one was just a new kind of quick study-like thing. It's not fair to call anything I do a study, but a study-like thing that I did. So first, let's get into the one that I made from a video a couple years ago. Okay, this is the chart. What are you looking at? So what I did was for each specific position, I decided to look at PFF grades and how often they correlated to being a good player. It's a bit subjective as to what is or isn't a good player, so I kind of had to use my own interpretation of it. But essentially, a 4.0 would be the best score, a 1.0 would be the worst score. And you see, players, this is pass rush grade, but players who had a pass rush grade of over 90 were often good, if not great players, whereas the players who had it in the 70s were often not that great. So there is a clear correlation in terms of being good at the pass rush position in, according to PFF in college to being good at the NFL level. Now, PFF is one thing. It's not everyone's cup of tea. Well, I would say this is pretty clear. This is something I want to pay attention to. If you have this much of a correlation, I still can say, okay, well, let's use some other data. So I decided to look at pass rush win rate as well. That's something that I had to do for this video. And because I'm stupid, I used a completely different scoring system and chart and format. I'm making things confusing for you. I apologize. But I'll explain what this one is as well. On the left, that is where their pass rush win rate was among first round picks over the past, I think I did past 6 years or so. A lot of edge rushers get drafted in the first round, so I didn't have to go that far back. But yeah, no one had something under 10, so it started 10 to 14, then 14 to 18, and then 18 plus. If those numbers seem a bit weird, I was just trying to keep the sample size as even as possible for all three categories. Also, for this scoring system, I didn't go up to 4, only went up to 3. And while the correlation isn't quite as dramatic here, there is still a decent correlation to being good at pass rush win rate to being good at the NFL level. You see there's about a half a point jump if you're bad at it to good at it. Are there exceptions? Of course, there's going to be exceptions. Trayvon Walker, very notably, did not have a very good pass rush win rate. He actually wasn't the lowest. The lowest was Greg Rousseau, who had a 10.9 pass rush win rate, and he's been really good. So that's goes to show, just because someone has a low pass rush win rate doesn't mean you just take them off the board altogether. But ultimately, yes, there is a correlation, and it is something you should pay attention to. I would also like to bring it back to that initial Moneyball quote, right? Because this is where I get annoyed, where I feel like some people, they'll read Moneyball and get the wrong message from it, and then act like, oh, all Moneyball was just looking at numbers, and that's how they came to their conclusions, only paying attention to numbers. No, that's not what happened. Again, what is the initial quote? If he's a good hitter, why doesn't he hit well? That's the quote, right? Or I might be slightly off, but that's essentially the quote, right? At least paraphrased. What the quote is not saying, well, if he is a good hitter, he would be hitting well, therefore he is not a good hitter. It is simply asking the question, is there an answer for why this player doesn't hit well? For guys like Greg Rousseau and Trayvon Walker, there was an answer to that question, right? They were constantly moved around the line. They weren't just put on one edge rusher or on one tackle consistently. There were explanations for it. So, yeah, you could make an exception there. But if there isn't an exception there, then probably shouldn't draft that guy. That's kind of just how I see it. And I would also say, like, even if you're a good pass rusher, like these are things I look at when I'm evaluating prospects. I pay attention to pass rush win rate. I pay attention to PFF grades when it comes to defensive linemen, because that is something that does have correlation. However, there also have been players that I've looked at and said, you know what, I wouldn't draft that guy, even though they have a really good pass rush win rate, because I've watched their tape and they tend to get their wins through moves that I don't think will work at the NFL level, right? You can use tape to clarify how some of these things work, but ultimately, if the tape isn't anything out of the ordinary and this number is one way or the other, you should pay attention to that, in my opinion. And to be honest, this kind of makes some sense, right? Because what's something I brought up earlier? Football is such a team sport that it's really hard to figure out, for a wide receiver, there's so much at play, right? The offensive line has to block long enough that it can run whatever route they want, because if not, then you have to, your routes are limited, and you won't be able to run the go route as much as you want, or a double move as much as you want. You have to have a quarterback who can get you to football. Who you're playing matters a ton. But when it comes to an edge rusher, it is a lot closer to baseball than it is for other positions. Because, baseball, part of why analytics works so well is it's a game of one-on-one matchups, and over a large sample size, you can really isolate one player and see how good they are. But with, football, that's usually not the case. But with edge rushers, it's about as close to the case as you can be in football, right? Now, there still are going to be double teams. There's going to be play actions. There's a ton of other stuff that goes into it. So it is certainly not fair to say it is exactly like baseball. It is exactly a game of one-on-one matchups. But, over the course of a game, you will get a decent chunk of one-on-one matchups. And there even are stats that can essentially isolate that, like a true pass set one-on-one matchup. How often do you win? You can make that kind of thing work. So, again, kind of, in conclusion, this is something you should pay attention to. You should use film to help create context for this, and there are going to be exceptions to every rule. But quite frankly, if I have a high pick and a player doesn't have a great pass rush win rate, I'm probably just not taking that chance, even if it's someone who could end up working out. Rashawn Gary worked out, right? Sometimes that happens, but I'm always going to take Aiden Hutchinson over Trayvon Walker. That's just kind of my general philosophy. But sometimes, Trayvon Walker's been pretty good. Sometimes it works the other way too. So, yeah, ultimately, those are my thoughts on all of this. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for watching to the end of that video. I do appreciate it. If you want to see my other channel, Jackson Kruger Movies, where I talk about movies, give some film reviews and stuff like that of a different kind, if that seems like your kind of thing, the link is in the description below for that, as is the link for my Twitter account. I'm at Jackson Kruger, so give me a follow on there if that's your kind of thing. And also, of course, remember to hit the subscribe button on this channel. I do always appreciate it. And thanks again for watching to the end of the video.